I would prefer, of course, Ukraine to finally to get Europeans' agreement to support Ukrainian army with long-range missiles. That's what Ukrainians are missing to conduct this war. And I would prefer Ukrainians to try to strike against Moscow, because I think that this is the only strategy which might force the Russian government to negotiate. Otherwise, Putin is not interested in negotiations. He's interested in capitulation, but not in negotiations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to YouTube channel War and Politics. My name is Sofia Troshchuk, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guest. It's Dr. Yuri Felshtinsky, Russian-American historian. Dr. Felshtinsky, hello, thank you for joining us, and nice to see you.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
So I want to start with the negotiations that took place in Abu Dhabi, again for one spectator, Donald Trump, because Russia bombed Ukraine just during the negotiations. How do you assess that meeting?
Well, I think since the 21st of October of 21st of January of 25, when Trump became president, we see various attempts of Trump and Putin to force Ukraine to capitulate through negotiations. And they failed so far. Ukraine, I believe, is not planning to capitulate, but Trump still is hoping that he will push through negotiations Ukraine to capitulate, and I think we will see those attempts during the entire 2026 as well. So this will be negotiations after negotiations. I do not really believe that they are relevant. I would say that everybody is just losing time and playing time as well to meet. And I do not really believe that Putin is interested in negotiations. I think Putin is interested in to force Ukraine to capitulate and to force Ukrainian army to surrender. That's what he's interested in. And unless Ukraine is capitulating, he will not sit at the table to sign the capitulation. So that's why I think that nothing serious really will happen.
I also want to talk about what interests Putin is pursuing now by agreeing to these negotiations, because he obviously does not plan to stop the war in the near future. Why did the Russians go to Abu Dhabi?
Well, because this creates enormous pressure for Ukraine, of course, not for Russia, not for the United States, not for Trump, not for Putin, but for Ukraine, because Ukrainian people are living in terrible conditions during the winter time without heating and electricity and water. And Putin hopes that this pressure will force Ukrainian people to agree to capitulate. That's it. So Trump, of course, is forcing Ukrainians to meet again for the same reason. He needs Ukraine to capitulate, because without Ukrainian capitulation and without the demobilization of Ukrainian army, Putin is not able to proceed into Europe and to help Trump to defeat democracy generally in the world, but mainly in Europe, because the main democratic power of the world is actually democracy of Europe.
As you said, we still see pressure on Ukraine from the United States. Talks about territories now only concern Ukrainian ones. That is, you Ukrainians give Donbas and you Russians take it. No compromises or agreements. What does Trump really want from Zelensky?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that for Russia, Ukraine was never the end game. It was not about Ukraine. In 22, Putin sincerely believes that he would be able to take Ukraine, after a very short blitzkrieg kind of war. This didn't happen. We know why, because Ukrainians started to fight. And but the idea is still the same, to take the entire Ukraine. So for Putin to mention Donbass, it's a kind of trick, because that's not where he's going to stop. By the way, the battle for Donbass started not in 22. The battle for Donbass started in 2014. So since 2014, the Russian army is not able to take Donbass. And Russians are not able to take Ukraine. That's what important to understand. Russians are not able to take Ukraine. Russians are not able to take Donbass. That's why they are trying to force Ukraine to surrender territories through political pressure and through negotiations. Because militarily speaking, Russia is not able to fulfill political goals of the Russian state. Russian army is not able to help the government to fulfill political goals of the Russian state. So for Putin, it's important to force Ukraine to capitulate, because then he will proceed to Moldova immediately, and as soon as he's done with Moldova, to Eastern Europe. That's precisely what Trump needs, because he has several democratic fronts on which he is fighting. The main one and very important one, of course, is in the United States, and this is literally half of the United States. And we see this battle which Trump is conducting in democratic states of the United States. Then, of course, in Northern America, it's Canada, and we see that several days ago Trump announced that he would introduce 100% tariffs against Canadian goods. Now, when you introduce 100% tariffs, these are not tariffs. These are actually this is trade war, and he's doing this. By the way, Canada is equal to the United States in size. It's a huge country, and Canada is the main trade partner of the United States. Canada is number one, Mexico is number two, and China is number three. So Canada is actually a very important democratic country, trade partner, political partner, traditionally, which became for Trump a very crucial enemy. And the main block of democracy, of course, is European Union. So that's why we see that it's very important for Trump to create an enemy out of Europe. And we see all these, attempts, rhetorical, economical, to force Greenland, which is part of Denmark, which is a member of NATO, to surrender its independence. And this is done not just in order to get Greenland. What I think is not going to happen, of course, for various reasons. Number one, actually, there is an agreement signed between Greenland and the United States in 1951, which basically allows to the United States to use Greenland for for military purposes, in case the United States needs to do this. I mean, there is no reason, actually. There is no reason for the United States to own this territory or to pay for this territory, to buy this territory. I mean, there is no reason for this at all. Americans actually are allowed by the agreement of 1951 to do in Greenland whatever they want if they think that this is necessary. So this is done for political reasons. This is done in order to ruin relations between Europe and NATO and the United States. So I think this will continue. And if this would not be enough, then Trump would start to demand something like NATO's participation in the securing of southern border of the United States. If this would not be done enough, then he will demand that NATO troops would be participating in the fight against illegal immigration inside the United States. And one way or another, at the end, we will hear that the United States are leaving NATO because NATO is not helping the United States in defending its territory. But this is done, again, in order to help Putin to invade Eastern Europe, because then Europe will be involved in war, and then the United States, will finally defeat the enemy, democratic Europe, and proceed in helping right-wing political parties in Europe to get through elections and to become, new friends of the United States, like Viktor Orban, now in Hungary and a couple other countries. So this is a plan, but for Trump again, Putin is a major ally in his battle against world democracy. That's why he is helping Putin as much as he is able to help him to take Ukraine, because again, unless Putin is done with Ukraine, he is not able to proceed into Europe. And that's precisely what Trump needs. And that's precisely what Putin needs. So unfortunately, they are helping each other, and this is going to continue for the next 3 years when Trump is in office. I sincerely hope that he would not be able to stay there longer, although I'm sure that he will make attempts to stay longer as the president of the United States, but we will see how this would develop. But Trump knows basically that he has only 3 years. Putin knows that he has only 3 years. So this years, because as soon as Trump is out, a new president, doesn't matter who will be the next president, would come back to traditional American policy one way or another. So both Putin and Trump know that they have only 3 years to finish to reach their objectives, to finish their political programs. And that's why these 3 years are going to be very difficult.
In your opinion, is the Russian-Ukrainian war important for Trump from other perspectives? Like, does he really want to be a peacemaker in this situation?
Well, the simple answer is no. Trump doesn't care about Ukraine. Literally, he doesn't care. Ukraine becomes important because for both Trump and Putin, because unless, again, Russia takes control of Ukraine, unless Russia demobilizes the Ukrainian army, Putin is not be able to proceed to Eastern Europe. And if Russia would not be able to ruin Eastern Europe, then America would not become great again. It's very simple. Trump's slogan, "Make America Great Again," could be realized only if Europe is destroyed by war. And the only country which may help Trump to destroy Europe is Russia. That's why Ukraine is important for Trump. This is the only reason. But that's why Trump will never help Ukraine and will help Putin as much as possible to take control of Ukraine because they need, Ukrainian army to be dissolved. And in addition, they're planning, Putin is planning, of course, to mobilize Ukrainians into Russian army to invade Europe. And that's, by the way, we see every time Russia occupies Ukrainian territories. As soon as they occupy territories, they start to mobilize male population into Russian army. We see it in Crimea, everywhere, in Lugansk, in Donetsk regions. We see it everywhere. Russia takes control of Ukrainian territories. And they plan to do the same with the entire Ukraine, as soon as Ukraine capitulates, of course. But so it's very important for Russia, for political reasons, for geopolitical reasons, and for military reasons to control Ukraine. But because this is also the fight for people, not just the fight for territory.
You mentioned Moldova and other countries, and I have one extra question. What should the countries of Eastern Europe do to be ready, to prepare when we speak about threats from Russian Federation?
Well, it's not that I think that Europe is ready, but, readiness is a philosophical question. But Europe of 25, 26, unlike Europe of 22, understands the level of danger. And it's true, it takes some time for a country to arm itself and to prepare for war. It's probably fair to say that it's impossible to prepare yourself for war. You are never fully prepared for war. But it's very important to understand what's going on. And I think at this point, in 25, thanks to Trump mainly, everybody in Europe understands what's happening. They do understand that you cannot rely on NATO, that NATO doesn't exist. They do understand that Putin's plans do not end with Ukraine, that he will proceed into Europe, and that basically they should prepare themselves for war. That's what Europe is doing. Everybody increased military budgets, some countries drastically, like Great Britain, like Germany. Germany is a major factor. It is going to be a major factor. Czech Republic, politically speaking, at this point, kind of support Putin, or probably doesn't support Ukraine, but on military level, Czech Republic is actually a very important factor because military industry of Czech Republic is very strong. And so Europe is preparing, not speaking about the Baltic states, not speaking about Poland. Everybody is preparing for war. This is very sad, but this is the reality. Not speaking about Finland, not speaking about Sweden. Again, everybody is preparing for war with Russia. Everybody. Does this mean that this will prevent the war? It's possible. Does this mean that you could be at one point 100% ready for the war? It's questionable. Again, this is a philosophical issue. But what is important to understand that at this point, with all difficulties with which Ukraine lives, of course, since 22 at least, or maybe since 2014, Russia is not able to take Ukraine, and Ukrainian army is actually doing a great job. And this is the best army in Europe. And Ukrainian army today is not just the guarantor of the European freedom, Ukrainian freedom, but also European freedom as well. And Europe knows this quite well, that the only army which actually exists in Europe to stay on the way of Russian aggression today is Ukrainian army. So it's we are discussing very often guarantees of security which Europe should present to Ukraine or build for Ukraine. But indeed, it's the other way around. The Ukrainian army today is the main factor and the main defender of peace in Europe. And that's how it's going to stay, I guess, for some time, because Ukrainian army has people and has experience in this, very bloody fighting against Russia. And the European army, even it's going to be on paper strong enough, in reality, will never have this kind of military experience which Ukrainian army has. So I guess my point is that also the war, is continuing. The situation is not so, well, I was going to say so dramatic. It is dramatic because people are killed in Ukraine every day. But it's not that Putin is able to take Ukraine and Europe, and it's not that Trump is able to force Ukrainian to capitulate and to force Europe to stop to support Ukraine. Because again, in Europe, they do understand that Ukrainian army is the main factor for their security. So I think unless the format of this war is changed in 26, 26 will not be different from 25. Because Trump still would continue to force Ukrainians to meet from time to time with the Russian delegation. Trump will still present the world with new peace plans. But since all those peace plans are basically the same, and all of them are not about peace, but about capitulation, I think nothing is going really to happen. So I would prefer, of course, Ukraine to finally to get Europeans' agreement to support Ukrainian army with long-range missiles. That's what Ukrainians are missing to conduct this war. And I would prefer Ukrainians to try to strike against Moscow, because I think that this is the only strategy which might force the Russian government to negotiate. Otherwise, Putin is not interested in negotiations. He's interested in capitulation, but not in negotiations.
There is a lot of talk now about Ukraine's accelerated European integration. Some politicians say this is a part of a plan to end the war. What do you think? Is the European Union a powerful now or not?
Well, no, I think again, in addition to dissolvement of NATO, which is happening or already happened, I think we will see that Trump would attempt to dissolve European Union as well. And this is, of course, unfortunately, in the interests of both Trump and Putin. Putin needs this because it's easy for him to conquer country after country. And while European Union, when it's united, is a very powerful structure. And Trump, for the same reasons, are interested in European Union to cease to exist. Now we will see. other attempts of Trump to destroy European Union. He will use tariffs to punish Europe for this or that, and he probably then would start to increase those punishments, like to move from 10% to 25%, from 25% to 50%, and he will wait for a moment when some countries and some governments, like Hungary, for example, would say, no, 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 don't do this. We are leaving European Union. We are not part of European Union. Just do not introduce those tariffs against us. And that's, I think, what we will see. Sooner or later, we will see this. Again, I do not think this is going to be dramatic, meaning that, well, we might lose some countries like Hungary in relation to European Union, but I think in general European Union will survive. That's what the miscalculations of Trump basically happening because he. Like Putin, he believes that if you apply pressure, then the enemy would give up. And this is not how, contemporary world actually exists. That this is not going to happen. Ukraine is not going to surrender. European Union is not going to surrender to Trump's demands. Everybody trying to be polite, everybody is trying to be democratic towards Trump. No one is looking for conflicts, but if Trump leaves no choice for Europe, then we will see an open conflict between Trump and European Union. I think we might see it not in military terms, of course, but in economic. On the economic front, we will see it. Trump damaged relations between Europe and the United States already. I think this will escalate. Again, we have 3 years, which might be very difficult. The difference between Russian war in Ukraine and conflict between Trump and the rest of the world is that we sincerely hope that Trump will be out of office in 3 years. So we know that this conflict has limited time period, right? 3 years only, while Russia invasion in Ukraine, as we know, continues from 2014. So we have two goals which are connected but in many ways different, right? One is to fight successfully against Trump, and the second one is fight successfully against Putin. So Putin might be in Russia much longer than 3 years. At least I expect him to rule Russia much longer. But as I said, these 3 years are going to be crucial because of Trump in the White House.
Yeah, and about other plans, Trump wants to create a peace council. What do you think of this idea?
Well, the idea, of course, is terrible. I mean, we could laugh, but it's unfortunately it's not even funny. What he's doing, again, his main idea is to assist Putin as much as possible in destroying Europe, and in order to do this, he's creating a new world structure which would include people like Putin, people like Lukashenko. Lukashenko is very important for Trump, not only because strategically or geopolitically Belarus is the main ground from which Russia could attack Eastern Europe. Unless you control Belarus, you actually are not able to attack Eastern Europe at all. And then, of course, Lukashenko is important because Lukashenko is the main competitor of Canada in economically speaking, and in exporting the phosphates, right? And that's why he took down sanctions against Lukashenko, because that's how he's going to damage Canadian economy as well. So that's what he's doing, Trump, right? He's trying to create new organization, a corrupt one, because when you need to, pay a fee of $1 billion to enter the organization, you know that this organization actually is going to be corrupt, especially when Trump is in charge. And I do not think this is going to work. I do not think somebody will seriously consider this organization to have any political power. And I think at the end it will be forgotten. But the point is that Trump is very creative, and every other day he is coming with new ideas, and so we have to deal with it. And I would prefer probably if Europe would stand, firmly against Trump and not try to be politically correct towards him, and not trying to be very diplomatic, not trying to be very in a sincere hope that this is just a terrible dream which is going to be over very soon. It's not going to be over. It's going to escalate because Trump knows that whatever he plans to do, he has to finish in 3 years. And that's why I think we will see certain escalation in Trump's activity in relation to Europe as the main democratic enemy of Trump.
To summarize, how should Ukraine and Europe in general deal with Trump right now?
Well, I think, again, rhetorically, Europe successfully deals with Trump. Basically, nothing is accepted. There is no open war between Europe and the United States, not yet at least. But Europe is standing firm. It's not entirely united, but again, main countries of Europe are united and are not going to surrender to Trump's demand. Europe, of course, it's not that it depends on America, but again, Europe are trying to be responsible for in the steps which they make, because they do not want their countries to suffer economically. They want to have stability, so they would like to have good relations with the United States. They're doing everything to keep those good relations. But I think that all attempts of Trump to force Europe to surrender fail, as together with his attempts to force Ukraine to surrender. So if we look at Russia's and Putin's and Trump's activity during during 2025, we realized that they spent an entire year to force Ukraine and Europe to capitulate, and they failed. The entire year they spent trying to do this. So I do not really expect them to be victorious in 26 as well. There is nothing else to do for Europe and for Ukraine. But I would prefer, of course, that if the Ukrainian government and Europe would come to an understanding that you need to change the format of this war, because the situation when Russia is bombing Kiev every day and Ukraine is not touching Moscow, something is wrong in this picture, right? And what's wrong is this is like one-way street. So in order for Ukraine to respond to Russian attacks against Kiev, Europeans have to come to understanding that the Ukrainian army should strike against Moscow, and for this they need long-range weapons. And these weapons, since they're not coming from the United States, and they will never come from the United States, these weapons have to come from Europe. As soon as they will come to this understanding, I mean, Europeans, I think we will see Russia forced to sit at the table. To conduct real negotiations. Then we will see how these negotiations might proceed, of course, but this doesn't mean that this will bring the end of the war, but at least we will force Russia to sit at the table to negotiate. If this is not going to be done, the 26 will not be different from 25.
Dr. Felshtinsky, thank you for this conversation.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for all our viewers. If this conversation was useful for you, please like and share, and see you.